Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 will be the epic conclusion of the trilogy that reimagines the iconic RPG. After Rebirth's release in February, we have received some updates and hints from the developers regarding what the final game will feature. In this video, I'll cover everything we know about the final game in the FF7 Remake trilogy, including storyline details, gameplay elements, and a confirmation from Motomu Toriyama himself on when we can expect official news. So let's start off with the story. Yoshinori Kitase, the executive producer on the game, assured fans that the project will stay true to the original, and before Rebirth was released, he confirmed that players would still visit the same iconic locations, but in a different order. As Rocket Town and Wutai were skipped in Rebirth, they are going to appear in the third game, but possibly with a few twists. Rebirth confirmed that Wutai are now at war with Shinra, meaning it could be portrayed differently than in the original, possibly with more military presence. Because of that, it will also likely play a much bigger role in the story. Rocket Town may also be approached differently, as Cid's introduction in Rebirth actually took place in Gongaga rather than in his hometown. While we know it's going to appear in the next game, as it's going to flesh out Cid's backstory, its narrative could change a little. A major concept going forward, confirmed by Naoki Hamaguchi, the co-director of Rebirth, is the multiverse, which will be central to the plot of the third game. While this could make things quite complicated and hard to predict, we could make some good guesses about how the story will unfold. So we know there's a lot of different timelines in the FF7 universe. After playing Remake, we were aware that at least two of them were established. One where Cloud and the party exist, and another where Zack is alive. Rebirth revealed that there is even more of them, with a third one definitely being confirmed by the appearance of a different version of Stamp. The last game will definitely give us more details on how the multiverse fits into the narrative of the project, and explain Zack's role in the trilogy, as Rebirth barely pushed his story. In terms of the plot going forward, the last game ends with Aerith's death at the Forgotten Capital, and the party rebuilding the airship, which likely they will use to traverse the world. Despite fan theories that Aerith might still be alive, Kitase states that the main concept of the remake project is to follow the original story, meaning that she likely will stay dead, although might still influence the events of the story due to the existence of multiverse. Kitase claims that the last part will evoke a feeling of happiness, so we can assume that the game might offer a more satisfying conclusion than the original. This will also mean that certain arcs that were introduced in Remake, such as Yuffie and the Deep Ground conflict, might be closed off in a satisfying way, which personally I am really looking forward to. Lastly, Kitase also mentioned that the last game will tie into Advent Children, so you can expect the ending to likely be the same as the original. Now, the comment itself is interesting, as Advent Children actually takes place 2 years after the original game. So I wonder if we are going to get a time skip at the end of the game and see the remnants of Sephiroth emerge from the northern crater, which then starts off the movie, or are they gonna add a new secret chapter at the end where we get to play the first few moments of Advent Children? Maybe I'm looking too much into it and it's not actually that deep, but let me know in the comments what you think. Now, let's talk about the gameplay and side content. As for minigames, Rebirth managed to add quite a lot of them, especially in the Gold Saucer area, which served as a nice distraction from the main story. The developers have said that they want to introduce some new minigames to keep the fans excited, rather than simply reusing the ones from previous games. However, due to the positive reception of Queen's Blood, Hamaguchi has mentioned that they are working on an improved version of that minigame for the next title, so it's safe to say that we will get to play it again in Part 3. While we don't have specific details about other minigames, we can definitely expect snowboarding to make a return, and we might even see chocobo breeding be incorporated in some form. Now, due to the financial underperformance of the game, some fans think that Part 3 might not have as much side content as Rebirth, but this is purely speculative. This point, however, brings me to the open world aspect and how it might differ from the one in the second entry. Rebirth made a huge jump from Remake by giving us a proper open world experience with freedom to explore places like Junon, Gongaga or Costa del Sol. Now with the party gaining access to the Highwind, exploration in Part 3 should be much faster and easier. The devs have stated that they are adjusting the map to accommodate the Highwind, which is interesting as it indicates a different open world structure from Rebirth. Rather than simply expanding on the map we had in Rebirth, I think it will be readjusted so that areas we have not yet seen, like the Northern Crater or Wutai, will be much more open, and regions like Nibel, which we already visited in Rebirth, will be smaller. I think if the game were to include all the regions in an open world format, just like the original, it could lead to the game being very large in size and maybe even lead to some performance issues, so they will definitely condense it in some way. Tetsuya Nomura, the director of the project, has also shared some exciting news regarding the playable characters in the final game. Many fans expected Cid and Vincent to be playable in Rebirth, but similar to how Red 13 was introduced late in Remake, both Cid and Vincent joined the party later on in the game, not giving enough time to fully flesh out their combat. However, the developers have confirmed that both Cid and Vincent will be fully playable in Part 3, meaning the fans can look forward to experiencing their unique combat styles. Finally, let's talk about when we can expect official updates regarding the final entry. We know, based on the interviews with the developers, that the main story is completed, and they have now started recording voice lines for the game. As for the release date, I believe the game will come out in 2027, which would coincide with the 30th anniversary of the original game. Considering there was a 4-year gap between the remake and Rebirth, a 3-year gap for the last part is likely, especially as many assets will be reused, meaning the development is likely proceeding smoothly. Kitase himself commented on those gaps between releases and said the Rebirth actually took 3 years to develop, so I think a 2027 release is a safe bet. Now, Toriyama mentioned that we should expect an update on the game before Ever Crisis' 2nd anniversary. If you've been following the mobile title, then you know we just had the game's 1st anniversary on September 6th, meaning that we should get some news around September 2025. Now, I think it will be something similar to the very first Rebirth teaser, possibly showing new locations, the official title, and a release window. As for the name, the devs already confirmed that it will start with R, just like Remake and Rebirth did. While fans speculate that the last game might be named Reunion, Nomura basically confirmed that it won't be the case, as he wanted to use that title for the second part in the trilogy, but couldn't, as it was already used for the Crisis Core remaster. So we will have to wait and see what the actual title will be. Let me know in the comments what aspect of the next game excites you the most, and drop down your predictions. Also, feel free to subscribe if you want to keep up with the latest gaming news, including Final Fantasy. Thanks for watching, I hope to see you in the next one.